I'm a huge fan of the reality TV show Survivor.
39 days, 18 people, 1 survivor.
I didn't watch from season 1 straight through, but I've gone back and watched almost every season and rewatched my favorites more than once. So when they were doing season 40, Winners at War, where they were bringing back previous Survivor winners for an all-winner season, I was probably as excited as I've ever been about Survivor. Especially since some of those previous winners were some of my favorite Survivor players of all time. Which is why part of this latest season was both extremely disappointing and surprisingly enlightening for me. For those unaware, Survivor is a reality TV show that became popular in the late 1990s and early 2000s. The premise of the show is, you gather a bunch of contestants, you separate them into tribes, then every week the tribes compete in a competition. The tribe that wins gets immunity, which means that no one in that tribe has to be voted out. And the tribe that loses has to gather in a tribal council to vote one person out of the game. Eventually the tribes merge into a single tribe, and the contestants compete individually for immunity until they get down to the remaining few, and the jury of the latest people voted off meet in a final tribal council to vote for the contestant who played the best game, the winner of which will receive $1 million. Over the years, there have been some variations and additions to the game, like a hidden immunity idol that keeps you safe at one tribal council, but the basic rule set has remained the same. I think the appeal of Survivor for me is the contestants on the show.
I'm trying to do this very quietly, and I'm still making noise. On the shelter, you know, the bamboo rubbing against each other.
I like to watch how they each play the game, and then I pick a pony I want to win. Then I celebrate my pony's minor victories, I suffer their defeats, and I'm inconsolable if they get voted out. There's also a lot of human moments in Survivor that make it endearing.
You just said 9 days is 2 weeks.
10 days is 2 weeks.
14 days is 2 weeks.
No, I work 5 days a week.
But you're not getting any days off. You're not going home on the weekends yet.
No.
There was this one season with returning players where a guy who liked to call himself Coach was upset and asks,
"Why doesn't anybody ever say anything good about me? Am I that bad of a person, man? Nobody ever does, man."
He's crying. He turns to another player named Tyson, whose solution to this man who was crumbling was tough love.
Don't wear feathers in your hair at Tribal. Don't tell your stories. People don't believe your stories. They mock you. There's no reason to tell them.
Damn, that's cold. In another season, a tribal competition was over, and one of my favorite Survivor players of all time, SSFIIT, had still failed to cross this one beam.
SSFIIT, you are the woman who over a decade ago got up off the couch to come try this game Survivor. These are the moments you were looking for.
And even though the competition was over, all the contestants stayed behind and encouraged her to finish.
Go, girl. There you go. Yes!
And then on a season called Fans vs. Favorites, there was a hilarious scene where a fan acquired a fake hidden immunity idol and tried to proudly share it with a favorite who was on the outs.
Not the idol.
Why do you say that?
Because that can't be the idol.
Why not?
Because it's just a stick.
I know. Do you think so?
And the thing that keeps me coming back to Survivor is getting invested in players or these moments on the show.
Spencer back with the 5th buoy for the Brain Tribe, and he is flat out exhausted.
Contestants like Yul Kwan, who won Survivor Season 13, Cook Islands. Yul was just so fun to listen to and watch. He was such an analytical and political player.
Does it make sense under any scenario for us to work together again?
When his tribe of 4 merged with the opposing tribe of 5, he managed to convince one of the players from the other tribe to join him and systematically vote out the remaining tribe until him and his closest ally were in the final 3. And he did it in such a way that made it hard to hate him. He was just so polite about it.
They're doing, obviously what they should be doing. I'm really sorry, guys. I'm just trying to be real honest with you.
He also found the hidden immunity idol that season, and rather than play it, used it as leverage to make the game go how he wanted. Yul even made a deal with a contestant near the end of the game in exchange for a vote, should Yul make it to the final tribal council. A vote that made the difference in Yul winning the season. He was so intelligent, but he always seemed inquisitive and modest, almost shy about it.
Basically, the surface area supporting all of us is about the same, even if your feet are a little bit bigger or not. But, your mass goes up at a faster rate than the surface area. It's kind of like why elephants can't run up trees.
And people noticed. My favorite line from the season came from Nate, who said,
To
intelligent. I do not want that boy thinking anymore. You know what I'm saying? You don't want that clock ticking there, homie.
Another player I love is Boston Rob. He's a very contentious player amongst Survivor fans. You could argue that, having played the game 5 times, having been a sort of mentor on another season, and having proposed to and married a fellow contestant on the show, and going on to have a televised wedding and playing on other reality shows, that he's one of the most famous players to have been on the show. But this creates a perception amongst the fandom that he's overhyped. But he's just so much fun to watch.
But it really doesn't even matter what it says, because I already have the idol. So, might as well just throw it away.
On the first season of Returning Players All-Stars, he created an alliance of 2 from the start that made it to the end. He manipulated existing relationships with players to his advantage, and he was absolutely ruthless in making alliances with players that he would burn as soon as he needed to. And he won enough individual immunities that kept him safe while he was destroying everyone else's games. On Survivor Heroes vs. Villains, he made a fire without flint, and this one player seemed to almost like worship him for it.
Rob, you're the man down here too. None of us are going to do anything. You're in charge.
He went on to help lead the team in challenges, helping organize them to victory, particularly with puzzles, which he is notoriously gifted at. In another season, he just marched an entire tribe of players to his beat the whole time. He made rules about how they were allowed to interact with each other.
We're going to do the buddy system. Nobody talks to anybody on their own.
He made rules about how they were allowed to interact with the other tribe.
Keep an us versus them mentality. Thus the separate shelters, the separate eating times.
He kept an open door policy, where it felt like he was open to discussing all options and being honest, and he made relationships with people that made them seem like friends. And then there's Kim Spradlin. For a while there was a perception amongst some fans that she was one of the greatest players of all time. She appeared to play the game perfectly. She had a great physical game, which she may have even held in reserve. At one point she says,
"Well, maybe it's not smart if I win immunity, but I just don't know if I'll ever feel safe. So I've just decided at this point, if I can take every immunity from here on out, I will."
And she does. Throughout the game, she gave herself multiple options, forming 2 alliances of people who trusted her, so she could shift to a separate alliance if she needed to. She controlled people by playing their fears and personalities, making up stories they were likely to believe.
I think the only reason Alicia would be willing to give up Tarzan, who has appeared to be one of her minions, is if she's convinced that he's not a minion after all.
I'm going to convince the jury to vote for you.
See, and he told me that to me. He's playing us.
To get them to vote how she wanted. She took the weaker players and basically educated them on how to play the game, then told them how to play the game how she wanted them to play.
Saying there are 8 of us and 1 of him, and if we all just go look for it too, the chances of us finding it are far greater than him finding it, so.
It was such a dominating performance that many fans found it boring to watch. It was just so one-sided. But for me, it's rare to find players with multiple Survivor tools. Physically dominant at the challenges, strategic enough to assess options and make good game decisions, and enough social game to make alliances and dictate moves in the game. And Kim wielded her tools so well, it was like she was a god, walking amongst Survivor mortals. So coming into Season 40, I was expecting my favorites to walk into the game like Survivor gods, pointing one hand to people in order to make alliances with them, and pointing the other to dictate when a player must go. My biggest dream was that Yul and Kim would team up together. Their joint ability to strategize and work people would have been so beautiful. And when the season started, there were glimmers of my Survivor God dreams coming true. Look at this moment in one of the earlier challenges where Kim just decides to win. I was so excited.
He's almost got it! No! Another big search from Kim!
Rob made an alliance in the early episodes, and in at least one instance, the person he wanted voted out did go out. According to Jeremy, Rob and Parvati did control the tribe initially. In the first episode, Rob just extracted information from Ben almost against his will.
Then you're on the receiving end of Boss and Rob's like magic, and you're like, yeah.
He found out Danny was targeting him and turned her into an alliance. And he had her running to him like a scared puppy. Yul helped make an alliance of some of the one-time players, which helped carry him a little ways in the game. Kim was able to form multiple bonds with people, so at least she had some options in the game. She even won an immunity and found a hidden immunity idol. But so many things went wrong. Rob, notoriously good at puzzles, failed 2 puzzles in a row.
Selling back to tribal council.
Rob, that's it.
Another piece by selling. 1 piece left. Got it.
He tried to implement his buddy system to help keep control of the tribe, and they voted him out for it. Yule opened up his great strategic mind and frightened his alliance, who voted Yule out for being too dangerous. Kim found a hidden immunity idol, but had to share it, and shared it with someone who did not want to work with her.
Kim should be telling Tyson about her idol. I am the last person Kim should be telling about her idol.
Kim played her idol and tried to orchestrate a vote, and failed. She tried to orchestrate another vote against Tony, and failed again, and was voted out for it. She even gave up on a challenge for chocolate peanut butter and cookies. It was painful to watch her be so flustered.
Poker Player Alliance is not a thing. It's not a thing, and if it is, I'm not in it.
I realized, especially in a season with so many talented players, and so much chaotic voting, that it's particularly hard to have things work out in your favor. There aren't any unhappy Tony fans out there. I respect what Rob, Yule, and Kim tried to do, and what they accomplished, but I would love to have seen my heroes make one more strategy, one more move, one more maneuvering of an alliance or other players that they came up with actually work out. It may have been unrealistic, but it was just so disappointing. It's like how James in Season 20 felt watching Colby compete in Survivor.
They got beat by a cripple and a fat dude on the obstacle course. It's like finding out Superman was in a big girdle. You see them muscles and you get up close and it's nothing but a fat suit.
Maybe these people weren't the gods and legends I made them out to be. And then on the final episode, when Boston Rob, Yule, and Kim failed to get back in the game, Jeff Probst asked Kim her perspective on her season as a whole.
First season, I was told I was perfect, flawless, it was easy, and this was anything but that. I feel really at peace with my story here, which was, it didn't have to be perfect. I didn't have to win, I'm still me.
And I suddenly realized she was right. Even though it's reality TV, I'd forgotten the reality of it. People are not gods, they are fallible creatures.
I'm the general, they're soldiers, and they're all doing as they're told.
No matter how strong or confident they seem, they still make mistakes.
Rob, this entire game has just wanted to control everything and every aspect of the game.
There are no perfect games, any more than there are perfect people. We're always concerned about how real reality TV is. And while I'm sure there's a lot of massaging of what is real on reality shows, the way my Survivor heroes failed on Winners at War illustrates the same kind of harsh reality I expect from real life. Yes, my Survivor heroes are somewhat famous people. Yes, they're all people who have won $1 million, though not after taxes. But despite their legendary status, and the flattering way the show edited their road to victory on their winning seasons, they're just real people after all.
It was my greatest fear, that I was going to come out, screw up everything that I proved myself to be the first time around, and yet I feel maybe better.
And on a reality TV show, maybe that's really what I came for in the first place.